Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you're doing well. My name is Afsha Malik, and I'm back behind the scenes with a Rabata Youth Program instructor, Anse Soofia Ahmed. Anse Soofia is coming to us from Chicago. She's a mother of three and a doctoral student at Bayan at Chicago Theological Seminary. She also teaches locally, is a Dragonflies youth instructor, and has an amazing, amazing array of volunteer activities that she is committed to passionately upholding, including being the Chicago chapter lead. So if you find yourself in Chicago or you live in Chicago and you want a sense of Rabata community, you know who to reach out to, and you have a face to the name, inshallah. So welcome, and say Soofia. I want to kick off our behind the scenes chat with a question about how you got into teaching for Dragonflies. I feel like you, amongst all the other teachers, mashallah, like just collectively have so much going on. What got you to say, yes, I will be a Dragonflies teacher?
Alaikum assalam, Afshan. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here. And Rabata's mission just holds such a dear place in my heart. Really inciting positive cultural change is seeing it when we interact with our youth is something so profound. I had the passion to be a teacher ever since I was very, very young. I know that I journaled about it when I was like in first grade. That was like my top profession, underlined three times, was teacher. I mean, and right below was like archaeologist and stuff like that. But teaching has just been something that I was very enamored by the connecting with people and learning from them and instituting pedagogies in the classroom, which I learned later. My background is in secondary ed and English lit and social justice and intercultural studies. So when Roberta reached out to me to be a Dragonflies instructor, I wholeheartedly, I was just very excited, very humbled, and very, very excited. In our Dragonflies classroom, we focus on really nurturing the heart, really nurturing adab, akhlaq, those core values that really help society be beautiful.
So you and I have a commonality where we had our Islamic education probably at local masjids and places like that. So, I mean, with our own kids in our different spaces of Islamic learning, how would you identify the differences between Dragonflies and any other youth program?
Dragonflies is very different from most of the programs that I grew up with. A lot of these programs were, I think, there was a little bit of, I mean, it was all fueled with um, well-intentioned and beautiful, uh, the beautiful notion to help serve and help propel the dean within young people. So I'm so grateful for it. I'm so, so, so grateful for the ways I was taught. Dragonflies is a little different because it really focuses on these character development qualities, taking care of one's family and showing respect and taking care of your neighborhood, all these things, how they contribute for youth to become that Khalifa for the earth. I think it's such a beautiful program. It helps loop in our love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how we grow that beautiful Nuri light in our hearts and how we hold on to that light by, continuing to do good things. What kinds of things can dampen that light? And it focuses on education of the heart and the soul in a way that I don't think was ever, taught to me as a kid. And I really do think it's a beautiful program.
Oh, alhamdulillah. I love your chuckle where you said very well intentioned. And mashallah, Allah reward everyone who had their deep, sincere intentions because it made a difference. Like we had people coming into the country, being raised as Muslim, and then really feeling that sincere need of let's keep our future generations Muslim and establishing these types of schools. Sometimes it's, someone's basement, sometimes it's a Islamic school trailer or a masjid trailer or, actually in a building. And so I had, different experiences as well growing up. And with Dragonflies now, I mean, there's such a huge array of Islamic programming for kids, in different communities. And for, folks who live in larger cities with a larger Muslim population, they have that selection, right? So as a parent, I mean, I know my kids are in, they were in Dragonflies and Roboteens and the Robota youth programs. Like as a parent, what like helps you decide where to put your kids when it comes to their Islamic learning?
Yeah, totally. For me, I have a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old, and an 8-year-old. And I think each child is different. Each child has their own learning trajectory and responds to different instructional styles. So I really look at what each child needs. And I think more children nowadays, they're really attuned to the creative arts and learning with in different capacities. Some children love drawing. We do a lot of drawing and reflection and writing in my Dragonflies class, and a lot of self-reflection. Some children love interacting and speaking and engaging like that. And so I think it really just depends on the child. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I mean, I appreciate you using your creative efforts in Dragonflies. I know when I was teaching Dragonflies, and for those of us, anyone who's listening and watching, Dragonflies is the Rabata youth program that's online for boys and girls ages 6 to 12, and they're divided into different Dragonflies classes based on gender and age. And this is a very strict like division because I know that, some parents will be like, my kid's very mature, they need to be in an older class or that sort of thing. But the fact that the kids are building community with the same age groups is so important because they get to experience that feeling of, oh, I'm a part of my own little community. And you do a lot of creative work in yours. And I taught 6-year-old girls in my Dragonflies class. So we actually did a lot of science experiments, which was so funny. I remember I don't know if I shared this, but I took a penny and I put it in some solution and I was like, okay, guys, we're going to do thicker together. And we made that kind of connection of like how the penny gets cleaned up and shiny, like our heart also gets cleaned up and shiny when we do thicker. And it was just mind blowing because they're like, oh my God, what happened to the penny? But what age did you love teaching the most, or what age, I won't say the most, I won't ask about your favorites, but what was one class or one age group that you really enjoyed teaching? And is there something that you remember about them?
SubhanAllah. Yeah. I've taught 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds, I believe. But in the course of for Dragonflies, in the course of my teaching trajectory, I've taught ever from preschool all the way through 12th grade. And each age is such a big blessing. I know as the older they get, there's different ways to interact. And I love the inquisitive mind of a child. Every time they ask questions, it just means that they're engaged and interested. I know that we were having the trouble in one of the classes of like speaking out and blurting out. And sometimes children were saying things, other children were getting feelings hurt. So we were in true Asham fashion. We did an experiment. We took a tube of toothpaste and we squeezed it out and we tried to put the toothpaste back in. Of course, it couldn't fit back in. And we talked about how our words can't go back in once they're out and that we need to remember that lesson as long as we live.
Okay,
And
that's such a big lesson for adults as well. Subhanallah, you were saying it, and I'm like, you're right. That's why we need to watch what we say.
can't go back in. Once it's out, it's out.
And that's the beautiful thing about the Dragonflies program, subhanAllah, because you have your whole cohort of Dragonflies instructors as well, right? So exchanging ideas and giving each other that support of like, oh, this is my topic, this is my, and I'm building my lesson plan. And subhanAllah, I don't think I've seen, I was helping out with a weekend school teacher and their program, and they were like, oh, we have to make lesson plans. And I'm like, oh, great. Like, I'm like, I know how to help with that because you and I both have gone through the teacher certification program. So we're both certified to teach. And teaching Islamic studies is so different, subhanAllah, because you're using all sorts of muscles because you want to connect with the heart and also know that, okay, cognitively, what's connecting with my students. And you're an educator. Like you dreamed of it, underlined it in your journal, like you said, 3 times. And if you could share just like, a couple of blessings that you take away from your like teaching experience at Dragonflies, what would that be? What would those be?
I mean, subhanAllah, there's so many blessings knowing that, um, this is a real big sadaqah jariyah, it's something that whatever you teach anyone that's beautiful and blessed, and they continue to do, inshallah, we'll be getting a little bit of that good deed on that day when we're all standing and waiting for reckoning. So every single moment is a blessing for me that I'm able to serve in that capacity. I'm just so grateful for it. You know, alhamdulillah, I love working with the parents. I love working with students. I love hearing how the student, applied the homework and served their loved ones. And, inshallah, may Allah accept it from us. May He be pleased with us, inshallah. I mean,
I mean, that is so beautiful. I was thinking about Sadaqah Jariyah just a few days ago. I mean, I think about it like daily and is like, a form of like, oh my gosh, I need to put in effort so that there's effort. But really thinking about how this type of effort, like this work, is something that you get the reward of someone else doing something. And then if they implement it and then they teach it to someone else, like you get that reward. So your reward is just like continuing to multiply, subhanAllah. And that is something to reflect on as, parents and educators and people who are just trying to be good people and like leave their mark in the world. And also for, donations, subhanAllah, whenever we donate to organizations that support this kind of work. Right now at Rabata, we have our end of year campaign to support Rabata youth programs. We want to hire a K to 12 specialist to really uplift the work and connect with schools, public schools, Islamic schools, educators, make sure they have the right resources. I know you've worked on this particular project too, where you're like, hey, here are curriculum resources. We need to get them up on platforms that would benefit, the wider societies panel because there's a lot of the misinformation, right? So much misinformation is going around about Islam and Muslims. And that's, I mean, the fear is like our kids will and the youth will catch on to that and have this really misguided interpretation of our faith, subhanAllah. So I highly recommend that everyone listening, use this opportunity to get your own sadaqah jariyah, get your own reward for all the learning and loving and building and nurturing of our youth that is happening at Rabata. Donate at rabata.org/support. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mightily, mightily, mightily reward you in both worlds, inshallah. Ameen. Thank you, Anse Soofia. Assalamu alaikum.